Let's call to order then this Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. Adam, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Metcalf?
Here.
Commissioner Bundy?
Here.
Commissioner Chase?
Here.
Commissioner Bendel?
Here.
And Commissioner Rizzo, who's absent.
Okay. All right. So next on the agenda for every evening is open time for public comment. Tracy, you have any letters or any emails in tonight for public comment?
I do not.
Okay then. And it's Martha, who is the only other person on the line.
We have an additional attendee
Okay.
from the public.
So with that said, this is open time for public comment. You have 3 minutes for something to say that is not on tonight's agenda. If you wish to say so, please raise your hand and Tracy will let you in.
Any hands raised right now? No hands.
Okay, so we'll close the public comment section of tonight's meeting.
James.
I'm sorry, what?
I had a little trouble, guys. Sorry. Apologize.
There's Mr. Rizzo. He is with us. Okay.
And we'll make the record be known that Commissioner Rizzo is here. So I'll mark that down.
Jim, glad to see you. Thanks for taking the effort wherever you are. So tonight we have a new hearing for 46 Birch Avenue. This is a design review application, PL number 2020-0053, for a 982 square foot second level addition to the existing residence at 46 Birch Avenue. So it would appear that we have the designer and we have the homeowners with us tonight. Who's going to start out with a presentation?
I think I will start out, Chair Chase, if that's okay with everybody.
Excuse me, yes, I'm rusty. Yeah.
No problem. Can everyone see my screen? Riviera Residence Design Review.
Yes.
Great, great. Well, welcome everyone. Yes, this project is, as Chair Chase announced, is a design review application to add 982 square feet to the second level of this existing single level house. It's a single level with a small loft above the garage currently. And I'll go through the presentation. I can make sure our slides will advance. There we go. So the project is located in Madera Gardens along the lagoon at 46 Birch Avenue, shown here. The proposed site plan really doesn't change at all. This is pretty much the proposed and the existing site plan. The building is within all of the required setbacks, and there's a very minor modification to the exterior wall on the back left, but pretty much the entire project is a modification of the interior of the home and an addition on top of the existing footprint. There's just a couple views of the existing home. Again, single level house, 2-car garage, very, very standard for the neighborhood. Looking from the other angle, a little bit obscured by trees, but this is the area where the second floor addition is proposed. Just describing the existing proposed first level floor plan. I've highlighted or outlined in red the areas that are proposed to change. So on the left is the existing floor plan. Obviously that's not what will change. Will be basically this bay window here will be brought in and modified to just be a straight wall. The main reconfiguration that happens in the first level is this bedroom here. Front bedroom is being turned into the stair and a half bath. And then these 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms are slightly reconfigured, changing a little bit in size and layout of the 2 bathrooms, but really fundamentally keeping their same purpose. So that's the small modifications to the first level of the project. Existing and proposed second level floor plan looks like this. Again, areas to change in red. Here on the left, this is the loft area, which is above the garage. The front part of this area is storage, and the back, or this 2/3 or so, is the existing loft area with the stairwell. And that is proposed to be not changed in terms of footprint, but just changed in terms of ceiling height. Windows, as you'll see in the front elevation, windows are to be added here to provide light over this is over the garage. The loft area is opened up, storage area is removed, and a bath is added. So there's some modifications to the loft area. And then down below, to the south, again, the stairway, as I mentioned before, coming up. Second floor will have a den, kind of hallway area here, and then move into the master suite, consisting of master bedroom, bath, and walk-in closet. There also will be an additional small deck on the second level, sliding glass doors, and the deck looking out towards the west, towards the lagoon and Mount Tam. So those are the modifications to the second floor. In terms of looking at how the elevations will change, this is your front elevation facing east. Significant change, a much more varied use of materials. Materials are described here using board and batting siding to kind of highlight this is the stairwell area. Board and batting used above here as well to tie in. Some of the original material retain the stucco siding, or at least the stucco look and color will remain. And then also adding some stonework to the lower part of the stairway. New windows, as you can see in the lower area, new front door, new garage door. And then these are the bank of windows I mentioned before that will be bringing light into that loft area. The home will go from approximately 15 feet in height, yes, to 28 feet 8 inches, so just under 24 feet in height below the maximum allowed of 30 feet. So those are your modifications to the front elevation. The rear elevation facing west. Again, the rear balcony that I mentioned off the master suite. Sliding glass door and small balcony, modifications to the windows here in the lower section to provide more light and access to the backyard. A shed roof element is added here for above the great room area, and then this area relatively stays the same here. Pointing to the 2 side elevations. This is existing and proposed south side elevation, where you have the majority of the addition. The 3 windows that are added, these 2 are in the master bedroom on either side of the bed. Sill heights, a little bit higher than typical. As you can see in the floor plan, probably not windows that will be used a lot given the beautiful access and views to the west. This window here is over the tub in the master bath. And these 2 windows here are just reconfigured in the lower area to accommodate those new bathrooms and the bedroom redesign on the lower level. It's all stucco exterior on this elevation. Other side elevation to the looking north. Quite a bit of, the modifications are quite a bit away from the northern neighbor. Again, here you see the the second level addition, the stairway, and the master suite. Here's that dormer area popping out over the garage door for the loft. The tiny loft window that used to be here is now moved slightly and centered at this point. And then windows here stay the same on the lower level. And you've got, again, predominantly stucco exterior siding, exterior treatments. And we'll mention that the materials board is attached to the plan set for your review. And also I have one here. And just to give a project summary, one thing I did want to point out, I just wanted to provide a clarification in terms of the net area of land that I didn't highlight as in the staff report. So the net area of land, when we're using the area that is below 6-foot elevation, reduces from the gross area of land to net area of land reduced by about 640 square feet. With that, all the calculations and the requirements for floor area ratio and lot coverage, and the project meets all of those. Existing floor area ratio is 32, proposed is 45, code allows 48, lot coverage is 33, existing proposed 36. The project meets all the required setbacks. Project is under the height limit, and there's no change to the parking configuration, and therefore no variances are required. It's just strictly a design review application. The owners did quite a lot of work reaching out to all of their neighbors. They went around and asked each of the neighbors, and the neighbors, all these neighbors have provided letters and comments of support that are in your packet. The 2 neighbors to the north, 2 neighbors to the south, and then all 3 neighbors directly across the street who may be impacted by the project. Story poles were installed and certified as required per the code. I received no comments in opposition to the project, and no comments beyond these 7 that were submitted to me in writing and that are in your packet. There are, as you're aware, there are many other second-story additions in the area that have taken place over several years. All these indicated in green are ones that have added second stories. Project here is in orange. Just a few examples of some of the nearby second-story additions. These 3 on Birch, as well as this 4th one on Birch, which you all approved back in July of this year. Another second-story addition on its way. Staff is able to make all the required findings for both evaluating the project impact of privacy, natural light, and view. As I described in the staff report, those were analyzed. There was discussion about the need for a shade study, but after conferring with the neighbor to the south and reviewing the story poles, did not feel that was necessary. So staff is able to make all the design review findings shown in the code. And with that, staff recommends that the Plan Commission approve the project and the draft resolution within your packet. And that concludes my report. The project owners, the property owners, and the designer is on the line. And I believe they have a short presentation as well. Thank you.
Well, let me check with the commissioners first and see if anybody has any questions for you, Phil. Mr. Rizzo, do you have any questions for Mr. Boyle?
I don't at this time. I had been emailing with Phil just on clarifications on square footage because there was just a discrepancy in the drawings with the site plan that was the designer had dimensioned and then what was actually put on the survey. And so there was just a clarification on the square footage. It really didn't have any implications to the overall project meeting the design standards. So I just wanted to bring that up in open committee here.
Very good. Thank you. Margaret, do you have any questions for staff?
I don't have any, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Bundy, do you have any questions for these guys?
Yeah, Phil, could you clarify a little bit on the square footage of the lot? You commented that 640 square feet are below elevation 6.0 as far as the tide chart would go. And so that cannot be counted even though it's in the square footage of the, the original lot.
Well, yes, and to clarify that, Commissioner Bundy, the code specifies when a particular parcel it has an area that is below 6.2 NVD or 6.2 elevation, then that area is not counted towards, or that area is subtracted, and so then you have the net area of land. And when you take that net area of land, and that is what you use for calculating your floor area ratio and your lot coverage. This is most commonly used in your neck of the woods where you're along the bay and you have tidal influence, and the code stipulates that 6.2 is the elevation, and areas below that are subtracted from the gross area, and you have a net area of land.
Right, and just to add on to that, it's really water bodies or waterways that are below 6.2 NAVD.
Bill,
Are you saying that the actual land extends into the lagoon that is on their registered
Yeah.
plot map? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Phyllis, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
oh, I just wanted a clarification on the same thing that Robert was talking about. I thought that the calculation for that particular thing was only for the actual lot coverage and not the FAR. Is when we're dealing with the properties in flood zones when we're
Yeah.
taking in. Is that correct, or is it for both?
I can explain that. It's actually stated in our code by that we use that net area of land calculation for FAR. And there's a different calculation actually stated for lot coverage. However, recently we were actually through a interpretation, we actually want to align both the lot coverage. And so currently lot coverage actually would exclude any land, whether it's in the water or not, that's below 6.2 NAVD, and we are aligning that by interpretation through to be the same as the stated code net area of land for floor area ratio. So there's, does that answer it? So yeah. So
Does that make sense, Mr. Rizzo?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the chart, Phil, that you have, as I understand the reflection of that recalculation, is that the FAR existing condition is 36%. Is that correct?
The FAR existing condition is 32%,
Okay.
and the applicant's proposal is 45%.
Okay. All right.
And 45 is what is allowable?
Allowable is maximum allowed is 48.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. Because of the reduction in lot size.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. Then we move on to presentation. Either Mr. Sherlock or Steve and Allie make the presentation. So who's going to start out here?
Start? That's okay with you, Mark?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Phil, for the presentation, and thank all of you for being here and considering it. My wife, Allie, and I'm Steve. And, we really kind of came onto this project because we love this neighborhood so much and we want to be here for the long run. Our kids are growing and the house feels like it's shrinking. So we wanted to work with Mark to come up with a way to do it as low profile, to respect the design integrity of the neighborhood. Most importantly, get our neighbors on board and feeling good about what we're doing. We feel we've accomplished that with what we've presented. And so, we appreciate your consideration and we're available and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, so you would like to turn it over to Mark then?
I would, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna follow up with really quickly kind of where this all started was, Steve wanted to go with this, just the loft dormer. He wanted to make his loft a little bit bigger and a little bit more, useful as a space. And it came about, getting the most bang for his buck. If he's going to do this once, he's going to turn this into his dream house. So just a couple things that Phil mentioned off the presentation. The additional material is really just the board and batten wood trim, as well as the concrete kind of board form off the front to keep that texture. Keeping the same stucco, I actually was a big fan of the existing color scheme on the house. It's got that kind of off gray with the white contrast, and just kind of carrying that to the stair elevation. And then if you just look at the rear, the last kind of remaining piece was really popping up the living room plate height. Because when you walk in there, you really get a beautiful view of the lagoon behind him. So to really just add as much light as you can into that living room while not doing too much construction or rework on that first floor. And then really with just respect to the neighbors and kind of like this view corridor everybody has across the street, you really just wanted to keep it to one side of the house. You really didn't want to just take this whole thing up another notch to the extent of the whole home. So you're kind of see that that 1/3 of the first floor plan kind of just mirrored again onto the second floor with respect to the neighbors, the views of the mountains behind. And yeah, this was a fun project. So I'm here to answer any questions if anybody's got any, and definitely try to figure out the square footage difference that you, Mr. Rizzo, had picked out. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will start with commissioners and see if anybody has any questions for either Mr. Sherlock or the Riveras. Phyllis, do you have any questions?
No, I think it's a beautiful rendition and it's going to be an asset to the neighborhood. It's been very well done.
Thank you. Dr. Bundy, do you have any questions for these guys?
Yes, the loft looks very well done. I think that's a nice design element. Knowing that potentially could be used as a bedroom at some time, is there egress from the window that is at the end of the house, or is that required?
So I believe the reason it's not an actual bedroom is because of the egress limitations it does have. And with the minimum code height of that side window having to be above the floor height, I think it would be a little tight. So basically we're gonna do everything we can to keep that from being a bedroom. It will be a loft kind of hangout spot.
The other question I had was the second chimney that's in there that's being extended. Is there a gas fireplace in there, or is this just a chamber to run vent pipes and exhaust fans?
Steve, I'm gonna let you answer that. Is it a gas?
Gas, yes.
Okay. So in that case, yes, the gas would be, the extra vents to get that all the way out. If I remember correctly, Steve, it's kind of small and narrow. So we just kind of want to bulk it up and make sure that whatever addition we did and whatever HVAC system's already there that has to get down has a way in and out.
Okay, nice design. I think looks good.
Thank you, sir.
Margaret, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think it fits in with the rest of the neighborhood, so That's okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rizzo, how about you? Do you have any questions?
No questions. I just wanted to note, I put my designer hat on, you just need to be careful with the ceiling height in that loft because there's some habitable space when you get to the building department and you're getting your approvals, that there's some spaces that need a little bit more than 7 feet. And I know that that bathroom's okay, but you may be limited to the use of whatever you call that space and what you can put in it as far as utilities. So just note to caution, and then good. I think it was a good pickup with Dr. Bundy on the egress window. We should really consider lowering that height if it needs to, the sill height, just to get you guys through the next phase. But all in all, on the design end, I appreciate that the addition's actually on the south side of the house because it doesn't cast shadow into the neighbor's house. And I thought they did a great job of using the brow above the garage to break up the volumes even more. There's a lot of nice architectural elements on the street side. Would be nice to carry some of that into the backyard, but what's that?
We'll come back
breaking
to
up?
commentary. But for right now, I just wanted to know if you had any questions for these guys.
Oh, okay.
I do want to hear what you have to say. I wanted to ask you guys about the glass windows up there in the master bedroom and the tub. So they are above your neighbor. Was any discussion had about making those obscure glass windows or anything?
Yeah, very, very briefly, that conversation was had where that actually looks over the second floor. You actually are looking at their roof. I know Steve mentioned that their neighbor possibly was thinking about an addition. So depending on that orientation, and if there are kind of window adjacency studies or just kind of vision that we can look at, regardless, those can be made obscured. But we just want to be respectful of the neighbors and make sure they don't have a bathroom in their bedroom looking across the same way.
Okay, so that's a future day yet to come then, if that takes place. So they'll come over and tape plastic over your windows. Okay, so that's a concern, but I noticed that it's so close and it's such a steep angle down to the neighbor's first floor. I don't think that would be the issue.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is now time for us to, unless anybody else has anything else, to ask questions about. We'll open it up to public comment at this time. So there are a couple of people in the meeting, and I'll ask you, Tracy, if anybody has their hand up, because we're opening up public comment on this project at this time.
I don't see any hands up, Peter.
Okay. Do you have any emails that have been sent in regarding this project?
No emails regarding this project.
Okay, well, that's just too bad. So we're going to have to then go ahead and close public comment portion of this meeting. So at this point, I think that we have some good commentary. Everybody likes the project, but I'll start with you, Mr. Rizzo, where I cut you off. Why don't you go ahead and finish up your commentary about this?
No, I apologize for jumping the gun. I think I've done that before. I am the newbie in the group, and I will get back on track on the next one. Yes, I was just saying that it was a very attractive elevation. Really good use of architectural elements breaking up that facade. I'd like to see more people use that attic space above their garage as well with a little brow window. I think it's a great way to get extra square footage without really impacting the mass of the building. As far as, and I also just wanted to note that I really appreciate all the community outreach. It does make our jobs a lot easier, and it makes for a happy neighborhood. So I don't have anything else to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Margaret, what would you like to add?
Just that I think it's fine, and I could make all the findings that are necessary.
Well, that's good to hear. All right. Dr. Bundy, your thoughts?
Very nicely designed addition. I think it's really a benefit to the neighborhood. I can make all the findings also.
Yeah. Ms. Metcalf. I'm sorry, Phyllis.
I can make all the findings. I think it's beautifully done. It's going to be one of the nicer looking homes in the neighborhood. And as we see more and more people adding second stories, I hope they take a look at what's been done here, because it sets a fine example of how to add on to a home without making it look like a box has been put on top of a roof. And as I said, it's just very good looking, and you've done a beautiful job.
All right, well, thank you. I, for one, would agree with all the commentary. I can make the findings. I was surprised when I looked at this how simple it was that the addition was done. It's not a complicated addition, and it's really quite well done. So with that said, let's take a vote. All right, we'll look for a motion from one of the commissioners.
I move to approve.
Second, anybody?
I'll second.
We
Okay.
get that. Actually, can you state for the record the resolution number that you are moving to approve?
Well, I'm looking for it.
Oh,
Can you put it up on the screen or?
Bob, do you want me? I have the
Go ahead.
paper in
If you
front of
have
me.
it,
Do you
go
want?
ahead.
I'll make the motion and you second it. How's that?
That's perfect.
Okay, I move in the matter of design review application PL-2020-0053 for a 982 square foot second level addition to the existing residence at 46 Birch Avenue.
All right then.
Okay, and that's resolution number 20-009 to be adopted on this date of September 22nd, 2020, and the appeal period will end on October 2nd, 2020.
no, we don't have anything to do now after, do we have a second?
That was, that
I'll
was
do a
great.
roll call, but Commissioner Bundy, are you going to second?
I seconded.
Okay. Commissioner Bundy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rizzo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Metcalf,
Aye.
and Chairman Chase.
Good to go. I agree.
Phil, you want to read the appeal? Well, read the appeal rights anyways. We'll give us something to do here. Unless you want me to.
Yes, I can review the appeal rights. All actions taken by the Plan Commission can be appealed. There is a $300 filing fee to appeal this decision. It must be made within 10 days of this date, and appeals are to be filed at the Planning Department, 300 Tamalpais Avenue, Corte Madera, California.
There you have it. So go forth and build.
Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you,
luck.
everybody. Appreciate it.
All right, with that said, you guys can bail whenever you want to, and we will go on to next part of our meeting, which would be commissioner reports.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right.
Peter, do you want me to do the review of last week's council meeting?
Please.
Okay. It was a very interesting meeting. Most of the meeting was spent discussing dogs and leashes. It was small town America at either its best or its worst. Apparently, this was the second reading of an ordinance having to be, let's see, to discuss the, I should read it so I don't try to say it. To define leash length as not exceeding 6 feet in length and amending sections of certain codes. one of the things that was discussed is that the code enforcement office will take care of the enforcement violations so that the police do not take time going there and measuring the length of leashes. It was, people were very concerned if they had extendable leashes, if they were more than 6 feet. Others were concerned about the dogs jumping into the water while on a leash if there was more than 6 feet. I mean, it was absolutely amazing to see so much interest in dogs and leashes. And dogs are now going to be limited to the paths in the parks. They're not allowed in the canal, and the leash length is 6 feet. And I don't know, I guess, Adam, does that fall into your jurisdiction? Making sure that takes place correctly?
Well, yeah, yes, and no, yeah, the code enforcement is, I guess technically under, from a budgetary standpoint in the planning and building, but it's really a town-wide service.
Okay. Okay, the other thing that was a resolution to change the lapse date for certain types of entitlements by 180 days due to delays and impacts caused by the pandemic. And it was passed. It was on before and it failed with a 2-2 tie. Charles Lee abstained again, and I'm not sure of why. So this time it was a 4-0 vote. Let's see. There was an update on the communications plan. There was no formal vote. The town manager was just given direction to proceed. And it's the basis of looking into integrating the communications for the town, and that all departments are kind of addressing things within the same manner. So there's a cohesive voice for the town. And that was pretty much it. As I say, most of the meeting was spent on dogs and leashes and how they would behave if they had more than 6 feet. Adam, you may want to explain the 180-day extension.
Do you want to, any other reports from commissioners, or you want me to move on to?
You know, we have to go so far back in time. We need a time machine to go back to some of the meetings that have transpired. And in fact, on September 1st, I watched the meeting wherein dual stream trash rates were discussed, and you've all gotten in your mailbox the update to the charges from the Mill Valley Refuse Company as a result. So that's water over the dam, so to speak. And I think that on August 18th, similar was, I think that one is also, yeah, you know, it's really stuff that has become stale with time. So I would leave it to you, Mr.
Sure.
Wolf, to carry the day here.
Okay. I do want to start with just a couple of reports. One, I'll follow up with Phyllis's her report regarding the extension of certain planning zoning entitlements. But I wanted to start with an ordinance that the town council introduced on September 1st and then also adopted on September 15th. I had sent the Planning Commission the staff report for that ordinance, and I just wanted to make you aware that it was adopted. It will go into effect October 15th, but this was an ordinance related to a new review and approval process for town projects which are located on town property. And so I would like to actually put this on as a business item at the next meeting, probably relatively short, but at least just provide the commission with a little bit more of a presentation regarding this process, given that it does affect the commission's role in the review of town projects. And of course, it specifically relates to the town hall remodel and addition project will be the first project to sort of follow this new process. So what I'd like to do, I know we're going to have a pretty full agenda at the next meeting, but I would still like to put it on the agenda so the commissioners can ask questions if they have any and get the needed clarity on the process prior to having the town hall remodel and addition project come back before you all. That's what I'll do. As you'll see, we have two other projects on the next agenda, and I just wanted to clarify that we wanted to just renotice and be clear about what was going to be discussed during 403 Chapman Drive, that project. And so that is why we renoticed and felt it was important just to not have any sort of technical procedural issues sort of come up at the next meeting regarding sort of our noticing. So it is now noticed. It will be noticed again for the October 13th Planning Commission meeting. And in addition, you'll see we have a preliminary study session. So we're going from no meetings for a while. Then we had, looks like a relatively easy one this evening. And then we're going to have, I think, a much more substantive and involved discussion about 3 different projects next week. I'm sorry, not next week, October 13th. So, and then just so you're aware, the other thing related to the town hall project is that the initial study and mitigated negative declaration has been released publicly. So it's available for public review. That was, Phil, that was like the 16th of September, I believe.
That went out the 16th of December, 16th of September, and it's good. The public notice period is till the 16th of October.
Right.
The 30 days.
We've provided, widespread notification. It's on the reader board. It's went out to all the mailing lists that we have in town. So, we'll usually what happens, obviously, with those is that we get the comments toward the very end of that comment period on the initial study and mitigated negative declaration. And then, just briefly, Phyllis went over it, but the council did adopt a resolution at the last meeting, the September 15th town council meeting, that would extend the lapse date for planning entitlements or zoning entitlements, and specifically those that were issued or approved. I want to get this right, but they were approved.
In 2019 and 2020, except for Hernandez, which was 2017.
Yeah, so it was those that were had granted approval prior to September 16th, 2020, and had not yet lapsed prior to March 15th or expired prior to March 15th, 2020. So correct, there was obviously the one project that had expired after that was given a 180-day extension. And that was the 159 Prince Royal project. And there are several others, I think there are 30 others that while not expired, have additional 180 days to request another year or 2 years of, actually it goes in 1 year increments to request another year of basically keeping the permit valid for another year. That is sort of the report that I have for this evening. I don't have any other reports at this time, but
Peter?
Yeah.
May I ask a question? Adam, at the end of the 180-day period, could you give us a report of how many of the 30 that have not expired actually needed the 180-day extension?
well, they all will automatically get it. So you mean how many have not been issued building permits by the time the extra 180 days has run? Sure.
Well, the way you described it at the meeting when you gave your report, and it was something that was not in the packet itself. Instead of saying the 1 year time will be expiring, let's say October 1, and then they could have a second year under the law. And then actually they could have that third year, which would be staff, your choice, and then 180 days if it hadn't been done, which is essentially what happened with Hernandez. But the way you described it and what you showed was as of October 1st, if it had been October 1 of 2019, that 1 year at the time after design review approval expires October 1 of 2020,
Right.
they would add on the 180 days first. And then if they didn't complete within the 180 days, go for the second year, allow it under ordinance. You reversed
Yes.
the pattern, and which kind of confused me listening to it and monitoring it. And I really didn't understand why they just didn't go through the ordinance, what under state law, and then the that third year under special circumstances, which that staff would approve. And then if it didn't work, do the 180 days. And so you reverse the pattern, which confused me, and I don't quite understand why.
Right. Well, it just adds the basically it starts 180 days at the moment that that resolution was adopted or passed. So it just pushes out the time by which that, whether it's the first request for a year extension or a second request for a year extension is done. And as you know, those I've said in the past, generally we grant the first year. The second year is more of a discretionary discussion. And so that's not, basically it's the easiest way and the most direct way to grant the relief is to enact it and make it effective now. So we'll push all those dates by which the request for an extra year of basically renewal has to occur by out 180 days. So it's just effective now. I mean, it's the only way to describe it. So.
And it would be effective the expiration date that was listed on that chart. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So Adam, I was kind of curious, just because it came up at that meeting, what the review standard is for that third year that was granted, that is within your discretion to grant. Is there a standard somewhere along that people follow, and how many people ask for that third year?
No, and we can, I'll just read it to you what it actually says.
Well, it doesn't have a list of standards that you go by.
Right, there's no
standard. And so I want to know how those decisions are made.
Well, it's case by case, and so I can't really.
Well, how many cases come up in 1 year?
It's only happened with the 159 project during my during the time that I've been here. So, but essentially, let's see.
And who has the discretion? Is it just you?
Correct. Well, it says also that it says at its option, the zoning administrator or planning commission may grant design approval for a period of time not to exceed 3 years from the effective date in those cases wherein the anticipated time for site preparation will exceed 1 year. So, but if we want to, I would recommend if we want to discuss this further or certain things that the commission may want to consider that staff take up or make a recommendation to the council to review in terms of actual language of the code, that we put, we follow the procedure and we can put it on an upcoming agenda for discussion.
Well, I propose that for an upcoming agenda.
Well, so if I may, I think the last time we talked about putting things on the agenda, it would be good to follow the procedures and our rules and procedures, and it would just be a quick statement of why it's being requested and some supporting information so that could be brought to the commission for its consideration as to whether to put it on an upcoming agenda or not. So I'm happy to do that.
Margaret, is that what you'd like to do?
Yes.
Okay. So we would put that on a discussion. How should we consider it, Adam, here tonight, if anything?
So if I may.
We don't.
So it says, members of the public and or commissioners may request to add an item to the agenda that is directly related to the business of the commission. By submitting a request to the planning director or his or her designee, such requests are to be submitted in writing, including appropriate supporting documents and information if desired, at least 28 days prior to the meeting during which the item is sought to be considered. I'm fine if we don't necessarily have to wait 28 days if you want to do that, although it's probably going to be 28 days anyways because of our next meeting is full. The item will be placed on the agenda under the commission's discussion of future agenda items. And then the commission shall have the discretion to determine whether to actually schedule that for a business item for discussion.
So Margaret, will you write Mr. Wolf a letter and ask for that to be placed on our next?
I'll write a letter to everyone.
Okay, good. All right.
All right. If, just to clarify, if there's a discussion, it would be, Adam, about the criteria that would be developed. Did you say when you talked about bringing something before the council eventually?
No. That's why the next time this comes, it just goes actually under 7.
Yeah, the future. I know.
Yeah, future agenda items, which is where it should be on here.
7.4.
It's 4.
Yeah, 7.4. So we would put it on there, and we'd have the opportunity to discuss exactly. That's why it's actually done this way, so we can actually discuss what the title of that agenda item should be, and what we want to actually, because we have to agendize it for the public, so the public can come and actually. We are explaining to everybody, and the commission knows exactly what we want to discuss, and so. Otherwise, we may be putting something on the agenda from the title perspective that just doesn't capture what it is that ultimately we want to talk about.
You mean like the Attorney General does on ballot measures?
So I think the idea is under the future agenda items, let's Margaret can come and propose, I think, what she would like that agenda to actually entail. And it could be criteria, it could be changing this or that. And then we actually nail down what the future agenda item really is for our upcoming meeting. And the commission obviously would sort of say whether or not they want to put this on a future agenda at that time as well.
Peter?
Yeah.
We're also going to, and I'll do it after the election because I'm too busy now. We need to do a future agenda item to talk about how we want to treat items being put on the agenda by members of the commission. It should not be handled the same way as members of the public, because we have certain knowledge and stuff when it comes to what should be on the agenda. I've been doing some research, and there is no other group where, including our own city council, by the way, where the council or the commission is lumped in with members of the public when it comes to asking to have something put on the agenda. And even though Adam and I discussed that I was not going to work on updates this year on the rules and stuff, I do think this is something that we should definitely look at.
Agreed. So that we can put on for discussion next week, next meeting, if we have the time to actually.
Well, I won't have the time. This way I have to write something, and I'm writing political stuff now till the election. That's my job.
Right. Okay. So we'll put that down in our caps as memory will serve.
Yes.
Okay. With that said, I looked over the, is there anything else anybody wants to report on at this time? Or tentative agenda items?
Peter?
Yeah.
I'd like to consider maybe a discussion about garage conversions, either for ADUs or people just converting their garage to living space, and how that impacts our parking requirements. And I'm not really looking for any change. I just want to understand what those are at this point, and thought maybe a discussion from Phil or Adam in regard to that. I did want to consider a future agenda item, and I'll put that in writing, is that a number of houses in my neighborhood are being raised right now. And I talked to one neighbor, and he said it didn't go as quickly as he thought it would, because he had a variance issue in regard to the side yard setback. House is set at 5 feet, the setback is 6 feet. And so he needed the variance for that, even though he's not expanding the footprint, he's just going up. And he also had to get a variance for the height, because the height was changing. And I guess I would like to see either the variances automatically be given or do away with it in regard to raising a house to FEMA standards when you're not expanding it at all. I talked to Tracy about it, and it seemed like it was sort of an obstacle that they had to deal with. It was just another thing that had to get done. And in this one case, it may have delayed the process a little bit. So I'll write that up and put that on for a future agenda item.
Yeah, and please do feel free to write any and all of these things, and we can start to create a list of, frankly, things that, we'll decide when, what makes sense for when some of these we can get to those. So absolutely, we can do discussion items easily about some of these.
And Peter, there's the one that I brought up a while ago, having to do with exterior lighting. And I've done all the research. I've put everything together. All that's left is the cover letter. And Adam and I, he's smiling. We discussed it. I'm so busy and he's so busy. We're putting it off. But to take a look at the exterior lighting for both residential and commercial. And that was something that came up, I don't know how many months ago. I can't remember anymore. I don't know if Adam does.
Yeah.
But 90% of the work is done. It's just the cover letter.
Okay. Okay, so that's in regard to determining what's acceptable and what's not, standards and so forth.
This is exterior lighting, rules and regulations. What happens is, especially with new development and with people like tonight adding a second story, there's certain restrictions stuff that are put on, but the homes that are not being changed don't have these restrictions. And just kind of taking a look at what we allow, what we don't allow, the ordinances. I have some sample ordinances from California and from around the state, from the different states that have been done. So we start getting some cohesiveness and stuff like that. It's just like we say with commercial, that lights have to go out, you know, at 11 o'clock, the interior, they have to be dimmed, the exterior, and just kind of make sure we have rules and regulations that apply to everybody, and not some have one set, some have another set.
Yeah, and to boot, this all falls under the code enforcement officer.
Falls under what?
Code enforcement officer, because people are putting up lights after the
Yes.
fact and changing their lights out. So it's a problem in that way.
And if we don't have anything in writing, there was one that I'm sure you're aware of, about people added strips of lights, bright lights that were on all night along a fence. I don't know if it was decorative or what, and people coming out of the driveway across the street were blinded. And yet there was nothing in the ordinance. When Adam checked, there was absolutely nothing in the ordinance that said you can't do that. So, you know, maybe we have to take a look and make sure ordinance meets some of what's happening today.
Yeah, it's time to start digging deep on this stuff. I can see
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay. Well, with that said, there's a burning question I have. When is the RH restaurant going to open up? The RH restaurant.
Oh,
Has anybody seen the trees outside of RH?
Yeah.
Have you, Bob?
Yeah, the olive trees.
The olive
Yeah.
trees?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're impressive.
It's incredible.
yeah. Yeah. I was wondering if they actually opened up this week, or was it last week? I don't know.
The restaurant
Yeah.
is open.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
Open, yeah.
Yeah. Adam suggested I go over and see it after he saw it, and it's his fault. I spent a lot of money I shouldn't have.
Was it-
Support the local economy.
Oh, it will, believe me.
Well, you know, I miss the whole crowd here, all of you. So I hope that one of these days we can get back to meeting face to face. It's going to be a little while yet, I think, but
Yeah.
We could have an outdoor meeting just outside under those trees. There's so much
Yeah.
picture.
I think you hit on something there.
The rooftop.
Well, Adam's going to take all the money he saved for us not getting paid, you know, without having those meetings, and he's going to make a big party for all of us when we can get together again.
Oh. I like that.
It's in your budget,
We'll do it on
a certain amount of money for us, so.
Talk to Carla. Yeah, so we can do an outdoor meeting over there at RH and enjoy ourselves on the deck. I think that would be
At RH?
There you
Under
go.
the olive trees.
I don't know. In certain communities, this might be considered using public resources for making a plug, but nonetheless. Anyway, I have nothing else to say. Anybody else have anything else to say? Otherwise, we're going to adjourn this meeting.
Good meeting.
How about approving the minutes?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I read them and I started to say that I didn't see anything in there because they're so lean and mean now.
I'll move approving the minutes of the
I'll second it.
14th of, I think it was.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then. Time to go home. So thank you very much.
Night.
Good
You all-
night.